And that's the same for a social order. It will tend to draw in whatever a social order considers to be important. And that's what it will tend to draw not only toward itself, but from its populace, from its people, which is especially important with regard to the young and bringing up the young. And so if the pull is toward the good, toward the light, toward beauty, toward glory, toward harmony, toward all the good things, then that's progression towards Jehovah's kingdom. If the draw is the other way, well, then there's a lot of work to be done, and then it ultimately will end in self-destruction. This pull is both here in regard to the things that we just talked about, but with humans, that is to say, but it's also with everything else in creation. Everything that's living has a draw, a pull to it. Depending upon what is created with it. Even mineral things have that pull, and we call it magnetism, or that which, you know, the positive and the negative, when you get to the protons and the electrons and the different charges and so forth. And yes, it's through vortexia, but it's still there. According to what's created with it, it draws to it what its oki is. And that's when we talked about the example last time of the crocodile. Its essential essence of what it is to draw in its nourishment. That's what it needs, it wants, it's looking for food. And so it'll draw in to it. And but it's not just the animal creation, but it's also the plants as well. Flowers, for example, will draw certain insects, but also draw man. We can get drawn to them and help them to propagate. As we develop in our understanding of S, the more enlightened that we become, and the broader the foundation then that it comes out of our wisdom as far as our oki, which will then draw to us the understanding of all these different things when we looking in terms of the pull of them. We spoke about how darkness and evil, and that man has to come to grips with them, has to learn how to deal with them, how do we interact with evil when we see it in our midst, when we're have it coming into our lives, or even the beast within ourselves, and how do we deal with it? We know, or we can know, the ideal approach, because we're given this through Oahspe, but also through the Creator's direct inspiration from within our soul and from His kingdom of light. And so we can understand what the all highest is, and so we have to progress toward that. We can look at a social order and see, well, how is it helping people? Is it helping people to deal with evil? And how is it helping people to deal with evil? How is the social order itself dealing with evil? And what is the focus of the social order? What are its ideals? This completeness of our oki, number 30, is very important. So in knowing the pull, then we can predict if we've sufficiently advanced in our cleanliness and our purification and our getting clear and our wholesomeness, then we can see what's going to come out of, as a foundation that comes out of this pull. And that's number 31. That would be the Aichi. And recall that Aichi had to do with filling in the chinks of the spaces, the gaps, as in, for example, when you're laying cement, a cement floor, and then you smooth it out over all the rough spots and everything, and you have a nice surface to work with. How that's going to come about, how that's going to occur, we can look to see, according to where that person is in their progress, or according, essentially the social order is in the progress. Because as a yes, prophecy can be used to prophesy with regarding individuals, but that's a sort of a lower light. The higher focus for the prophet would be to look at the social order, at the upliftment of humanity, for the resurrection of humankind. That's the all highest. That's the focus that will get the best results and the best help from Jehovah's kingdom. Not that they will forego necessarily inspiration if the focus is on lesser things, except for that would be more of a teaching method of teaching. Because part of the thing is what we focus on, that's what we're nurturing. That's, in a sense, is what we get back to us. That becomes part of our focus, our foundation, our hoki, which then comes back through the pull, the draw, the pull. And the pull itself is, as we mentioned, both good and bad with regard to the oki. It'll draw in the good as well as the bad, as well as the evil, and that's why we can draw evil to us for our weaknesses that we have, and it's for ourselves to deal with that weakness so that we can learn to transcend it, to gain mastery over that situation, so that if we're in a situation like that, we can respond to it in ways of light rather than in ways of the beast in the future. You know, these pulls that we have are not necessarily all of our own making. That we have pulls that come from the social order, from the milieu that we're in, as well as creation, as we mentioned, but also through our birth, through our ancestry. We have these draws, both good and the higher and the lower aspect. And so we have these things that we need to perfect within ourselves, and also to labor to improve the situation in the outer realm, as we talked about before, as we went from the inner realm to the outer realm, and how the Father's kingdom comes from the inner realm to the outer realm. Those aspects of 18, 19, 20, 21 are very important with respect to man, number 12, and as man goes forward through creation.